Ever felt like your mornings are chaotic disasters while the Amish seem to have it all figured out? What if the secret to starting your day right has been hiding in plain sight for centuries? These 20 Amish morning habits aren't just quaint traditions. They're scientifically backed techniques that could transform your entire day. From cold water face washing that boosts alertness by 31% to the 1 hour earlier rule that increases life satisfaction by 20%, these forgotten practices might be exactly what your modern morning is missing. Early rising. The quiet darkness before dawn holds a special magic that few of us experience regularly. While most of us hit snooze until the last possible moment, the Amish have been quietly maximizing these precious morning hours for generations. Rising before the sun isn't just an old-fashioned habit. It's their secret weapon for productivity and peace. When you wake before everyone else, you're gifted with uninterrupted moments that belong solely to you. No emails, no calls, no demands, just stillness. According to sleep researchers, those quiet pre-dawn hours contain some of our most productive brain waves. The brain is often clearer after sleep before it gets bombarded with the day's information overload. This mental clarity is something the Amish have intuitively understood through generations of practice. For the Amish, early rising isn't optional. It's essential to their way of life. Farm animals need tending, bread needs baking, and chores must be completed before the day's main work begins. What they've discovered through this necessity is that these dawn hours offer something precious beyond mere productivity: perspective. Many who've adopted this practice report that problems which seemed overwhelming the previous night somehow appear more manageable in the peaceful dawn. The world is quiet, the mind is clear, and solutions emerge more readily. There's a certain wisdom that comes with greeting the day before it demands anything of you. The transition to early rising isn't always easy. The first week typically involves some adjustment as your body fights against changing its established patterns, but persistence pays dividends. Most people report that after about 2 weeks of consistently early rising, their bodies naturally begin to wake up earlier, often even before the alarm sounds. Even if you're not ready to embrace the full Amish 4:30 a.m. wake-up call, shifting your schedule just 30 minutes earlier can create that pocket of serenity that makes all the difference. Start small, set your alarm just 10 minutes earlier for a week, then add another 10 minutes the next week. What makes this practice sustainable is establishing a meaningful morning ritual. For some, it's quiet reflection or prayer. For others, it's reading or planning the day ahead. Having a purpose for those early hours helps cement the habit. Your body will adjust, and soon you'll wonder how you ever lived without this quiet, golden time. Natural light exposure. Stepping outside a traditional Amish home at daybreak reveals something most modern humans miss entirely. As the rising sun paints the sky in watercolor hues, Amish families are already absorbing those first precious rays, not because they're early birds by nature, but because they understand something fundamental about our biology that most of us have forgotten. Our bodies evolved over thousands of years to wake with the sun and sleep with the darkness. The Amish lifestyle naturally aligns with these patterns simply because they limit artificial light. It's not religion that drives this practice, it's practicality combined with tradition that honors our natural biological rhythms. Here's the fascinating science. Morning sunlight exposure triggers a cascade of hormones in your body, particularly cortisol, which helps you feel alert and energized. This exposure also suppresses melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy. Additionally, morning light resets your internal circadian clock, making it easier to fall asleep when darkness falls. Missing this morning light signal is like failing to set your body's alarm clock for the evening. A recent study found that people who get morning sunlight exposure had up to 20% better sleep quality than those who didn't. That's the difference between waking refreshed and dragging yourself out of bed feeling exhausted. Researchers suggest that just 15 to 30 minutes of morning sunlight can significantly improve sleep quality. The Amish benefit from this natural rhythm without even trying. Their lifestyle demands outdoor morning work, from feeding livestock to tending gardens. Modern lifestyles often keep us indoors during these crucial morning hours, substituting artificial light that lacks the full spectrum our bodies need. You don't need to go full Amish to reap these benefits. Simply opening your blinds immediately upon waking, Having your morning coffee near a window or spending just 5 minutes outside while the kettle boils can signal to your body that a new day has begun. For those in northern climates with dark winters, light therapy lamps can provide some of the same benefits. Making this small change, prioritizing natural light exposure first thing in the morning, can transform your energy levels, mood, and sleep quality. Your brain will thank you, your sleep will improve, and you might just discover why the Amish have been rising with the sun all along. Morning oil lamp. Have you ever noticed how jarring it feels when someone flips on a bright light while you're still half asleep? Your eyes squint, your head pounds, and suddenly your peaceful morning transforms into an uncomfortable shock to the system. This is where the wisdom of the Amish shines, quite literally, but much more gently. Instead of harsh overhead lights, many Amish families begin their days with the soft, warm glow of oil lamps. The only product we'll ever promote on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime that are impossible to find elsewhere. We decided to promote his book because we are the last generation able to share these techniques and superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be a shame to see this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods to survive crises disappear. You can also find a book about herbal remedies from Nicole Apelian on their store. If you're watching this on TV, you can look up our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. This isn't just about tradition or avoiding electricity. It's about creating a gentle transition from sleep to wakefulness that respects our biology. Modern science has caught up to what the Amish have known through practice. Studies show that exposure to bright artificial light first thing in the morning disrupts the body's natural production of melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate sleep cycles. The blue light in most modern lighting is particularly disruptive, telling your brain it's noon when it might be 5 a.m. Light color temperature matters significantly. The warm amber glow of an oil lamp, around 1800 Kelvin on the Kelvin scale, mimics the gentle light of sunrise, while most modern LED and fluorescent lighting, 5000 Kelvin plus, produces a harsh blue-white light that more closely resembles noon daylight. This difference affects how our brains process the transition from sleep to wakefulness. Researchers have found that exposure to blue light suppresses melatonin production twice as long as warmer light and shifts circadian rhythms by twice as much. This explains why many people who switch to gentler morning lighting report feeling more naturally awake rather than artificially jolted into consciousness. The good news is you don't need to go full Amish to incorporate this principle. Warm, dim lighting in the morning can be achieved with modern dimmers, low-wattage amber bulbs, or salt lamps. Some people use programmable smart lights that gradually increase in brightness, mimicking the sunrise. The key is creating that gentle transition period where your body and mind can wake up naturally rather than being jolted into consciousness. Many who've adopted this practice report clearer thinking, better mood, and even improved digestion when they start their day with softer lighting. The Amish have maintained this practice not out of stubborn resistance to progress, but because they've witnessed its benefits across generations. Their mornings unfold with intention rather than urgency, beginning with a light that respects the body's natural rhythms. Simple hygiene. Forget complicated 12-step skincare routines and bathroom counters cluttered with products. The Amish approach to morning hygiene cuts through all that noise with refreshing simplicity. A basin of water, a washcloth, and soap. That's it. While modern bathrooms feature multiple shower heads, digital temperature controls, and enough products to stock a small pharmacy, Amish hygiene practices focus on efficiency and functionality without sacrificing cleanliness. It's not about spending less time being clean. It's about spending less time on unnecessary steps. A traditional Amish morning wash involves filling a basin with water, sometimes heated on a stove, then using a washcloth to clean from head to toe. The entire process might take 5 minutes, yet it leaves one perfectly clean and ready for the day. What might surprise many is that this method actually has several health benefits beyond just saving time. The slight shock of cooler water against the skin triggers something called the mammalian diving reflex, which improves circulation and increases alertness. It's like coffee for your skin, minus the caffeine crash later. Scientists have found that daily cold water exposure can increase white blood cell count, potentially boosting immunity over time. The Amish didn't need scientific studies to discover this. Generations of experience showed them that this simple practice kept them healthy and alert. The simplicity of this approach also reduces decision fatigue. Without having to choose between dozens of products each morning, the mind remains clearer and more focused on what truly matters. This mental clarity is as valuable as the physical cleanliness the practice provides. For those not quite ready to abandon their hot showers, even incorporating a brief cool rinse at the end can provide many of the same benefits. The key is making the practice simple and consistent rather than turning it into another complicated routine. Without dozens of products and lengthy processes, the Amish approach to morning hygiene creates space for other important activities while still beginning the day clean and refreshed. Their wash basins might seem primitive to modern eyes, but their simplicity holds a wisdom worth reconsidering in our overcomplicated world. Making the bed. The humble act of making your bed might seem trivial in the grand scheme of morning routines, but to the Amish, it represents something far more significant than just tidying up. It's about order, respect for your space, and starting as you mean to continue. In Amish households, unmade beds are rare sights. Children learn from their earliest years that straightening sheets and blankets is simply what one does upon rising, not as a chore to be checked off, but as a natural extension of getting up. This practice stems from the Amish belief that orderliness in your environment creates orderliness in your mind and spirit. Admiral William McRaven famously said in his 2014 commencement speech, "If you want to change the world, start by making your bed." This sentiment would find ready agreement in Amish communities, where they've been changing their small worlds through such simple acts for centuries. Research backs up this wisdom. A survey by the National Sleep Foundation found that people who make their beds every morning are 19% more likely to report regularly getting a good night's sleep. When your bedroom feels organized, your mind follows suit. The beauty of this Amish morning habit lies in its simplicity and immediate reward. Unlike many tasks that require waiting to see results, a made bed provides instant gratification, visual proof that you've already accomplished something, however small, right at the start of your day. Psychologists call this a keystone habit, a practice that triggers positive changes in other areas of life. People who consistently make their beds often report becoming more productive, feeling less stressed, and even making healthier food choices throughout the day. The Amish don't overthink this practice or turn it into an Instagram-worthy styling session. Their beds are typically simple, functional, comfortable, and neat. The focus isn't on creating a magazine-perfect display, but on respecting one's space and beginning the day with purpose and order. As you move from your newly made bed to face the day ahead, this small accomplishment travels with you, a quiet reminder that you're capable of seeing things through from start to finish, even when no one else is watching. Morning posture. Alignment. Your mother was right all along about standing up straight. Those frequent reminders to stop slouching weren't just about looking proper, they were about feeling better and staying healthier. In Amish communities, proper posture isn't just taught, it's lived daily through physical work and mindful movement. The typical Amish morning includes intentional attention to how the body is positioned during early chores and activities. Without explicitly discussing posture, they naturally maintain alignment through their work. Watch an Amish farmer moving through morning barn chores, and you'll notice they bend at the knees, not the waist, keeping their back straight rather than hunched. Researchers at Cornell University found that good posture increases testosterone by up to 20%, while decreasing cortisol, the stress hormone, by 25%. Essentially, standing tall actually makes you feel more powerful and less stressed. A perfect combination for starting your day. Most modern folks have posture that would make an Amish grandmother wince. We hunch over phones, slouch at desks, and twist our spines into positions that would confuse a pretzel maker. By midlife, many people's shadows have better posture than they do. Unlike complicated exercise regimes, the Amish approach to morning posture is refreshingly simple. Be mindful of alignment during ordinary tasks. When washing your face, avoid hunching over the sink. When making breakfast, keep your shoulders back and relaxed. These small adjustments cost nothing and require no special equipment or training. The Amish have understood for generations what physical therapists now charge hundreds of dollars to teach. Good posture is preventative medicine. Their communities show significantly lower rates of back pain and related issues than the general population, despite physical labor that might seem to put them at higher risk. This approach to morning posture doesn't require setting aside special time for exercises. It's integrated into the flow of daily activities. As you move through your morning routine, simply being aware of how you're holding your body can transform not just how you feel physically, but your mental state as well. When we stand properly aligned, breathing deepens naturally. Oxygen flow improves, and even digestion works better. It's a simple change with profound effects on overall well-being. Morning stretching outdoors. When dawn breaks across an Amish farm, you won't find people rolling out yoga mats or following along with fitness apps. Instead, you'll see something far more organic. Stretching that happens naturally as part of morning work, almost always in the fresh outdoor air. Combining movement with morning air creates a powerful cocktail for health that modern fitness trends are only beginning to recognize. The Amish have been stretching outdoors for centuries, not as a dedicated exercise routine, but as a natural integration of movement and environment. A fascinating study published in the Journal of Environmental Psychology found that outdoor exercise improves mental well-being significantly more than the same movements performed indoors. Specifically, outdoor stretching in the morning increases oxygen intake by about 20% compared to indoor stretching, delivering more energy to your brain and muscles when you need it most. The human body evolved to move in open spaces, breathing clean air while stretching and working. Amish communities maintain this connection through morning chores that naturally incorporate reaching, bending, and stretching. Their bodies stay limber not through dedicated yoga sessions, but through purposeful movement. The beauty of the Amish approach lies in its simplicity. You don't need special clothes, equipment, or a membership fee. Simple movements like reaching toward the sky, gentle side bends, and forward folds wake up the body gradually and naturally. These movements take less than 3 minutes, but set up your muscles and joints for the day ahead. Morning air also contains higher levels of negative ions, which some research suggests may improve mood and energy levels. The Amish don't need scientific studies to tell them this. Generations of experience have shown them that movement in the morning air simply feels better. This natural approach to morning movement honors the body's need to ease into activity rather than forcing it into high-intensity exercise right away. By stretching outdoors as part of meaningful work, the Amish avoid the artificial separation between exercise and living that characterizes many modern fitness routines. For those looking to incorporate this wisdom, the simplest approach is to take your morning stretch routine outside. Even a small balcony, porch, or patch of grass can become your connection to this natural way of starting the day. Simple clothing choices. The closet crisis, that daily moment of paralysis while staring at dozens of clothing options, is completely foreign to Amish communities. Their approach to morning clothing decisions could revolutionize your start to the day, and it has nothing to do with adopting plain dress or throwing out your favorite clothes. Researchers estimate that the average person makes about 35,000 decisions every day, leading to a phenomenon psychologists call decision fatigue. By mid-afternoon, your brain is exhausted from choosing, which explains why so many of us make poor decisions later in the day. The Amish sidestep this entire problem with clothing systems so simple they barely require thought. In Amish homes, morning clothing selection takes seconds, not minutes or hours. With limited options and clear purposes for each garment, the question of what to wear barely registers as a decision at all. This frees up mental energy for more important matters right from the start of the day. Former Apple CEO Steve Jobs famously adopted this principle with his signature black turtleneck and jeans, creating a personal uniform that eliminated one daily decision. Barack Obama did something similar with his blue or gray suits, explaining, "I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have too many other decisions to make." The Amish approach doesn't require identical clothing, just thoughtful limitation. Many who've adopted this principle create simple uniforms or capsule wardrobes where everything mixes and matches easily. Some designate specific outfits for specific days, removing the need to decide altogether. Studies show that reducing morning decision-making around clothing can save up to 15 minutes daily and significantly lower stress levels. That adds up to over 90 hours per year reclaimed from clothing deliberations, time that could be spent on more meaningful morning activities. This mindful limitation does more than save time. It also reduces the anxiety many feel about clothing choices and social judgment. When your wardrobe serves function first and follows simple rules, getting dressed becomes one less thing to worry about. In our culture of endless choices and options, this Amish principle reminds us that sometimes less truly is more, especially first thing in the morning when mental energy is at its most valuable. Purposeful silence. The modern world never stops talking. From the moment we wake up, we're bombarded with notifications, news updates, traffic reports, and the general hum of technology. Silence has become so rare that many people find it uncomfortable. In stark contrast, purposeful silence forms the foundation of an Amish morning. Before the day's work begins in earnest, many Amish families observe periods of quiet contemplation, not necessarily as formal meditation, but as a natural part of their rhythm. This silence isn't empty, it's full of presence and intention. Scientists have discovered that just 2 minutes of silence can be more relaxing than listening to relaxing music. In a 2006 study, researchers found that silent pauses between sounds triggered brain activity in areas related to self-awareness and memory processing. Essentially, our brains use silence to make sense of our experiences. Noise pollution in modern environments has measurable impacts on our health. Studies show that excessive noise raises cortisol levels and blood pressure while decreasing cognitive performance. Many people unwittingly start their day with a stress response triggered simply by the cacophony of alarms, news, and notifications. Creating pockets of silence doesn't require moving to an Amish farm. Even in busy households, you can find moments before others wake up, in a quiet corner with a cup of tea, or even in the shower with the fan turned off. The key is making silence intentional rather than just accidental. In Amish homes, this morning, silence often happens naturally as people move through early chores with minimal conversation. It's not about enforcing quiet or strict rules. It's about recognizing the value of giving your mind space before filling it with information and demands. As you cultivate purposeful silence in your mornings, you may discover what the Amish have known for generations, that a quiet beginning creates mental clarity that sustains you through the noise that inevitably comes later in the day. Just as a clear canvas allows an artist to create with intention, a quiet mind allows you to shape your day deliberately. The practice of morning silence provides a reset for the nervous system, allowing the body to remain in a parasympathetic, rest and digest state longer before switching to sympathetic, fight-or-flight activation. This physiological balance may explain why those who practice morning silence report better stress management throughout the day. Morning journaling. With a pencil stub and simple notebook, the Amish have preserved a practice that expensive journals and fancy pens can't improve upon. Morning journaling in Amish communities looks nothing like the elaborate spreads shared on social media, yet accomplishes something far more valuable: clearing the mind for the day ahead. The limited artificial light in traditional Amish homes creates perfect conditions for reflection. Without bright screens and constant stimulation, thoughts flow more naturally onto paper. Many Amish begin their day by recording simple observations, plans for work, or expressions of gratitude, not as performance or art, but as practical mental clearing. Neuroscience supports this practice enthusiastically. Research from UCLA demonstrated that handwriting activates regions of the brain involved in thinking, language, and working memory in ways typing simply cannot match. The physical act of forming letters on paper creates neural pathways that help process emotions and organize thoughts. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that writing by hand improves memory recall by up to 25% compared to typing the same information. For the Amish, this memory enhancement serves a practical purpose in a lifestyle where written reminders aren't always readily available. Despite challenges with penmanship that many face when first returning to handwriting, the benefits of morning journaling remain powerful. Psychologists have found that putting thoughts on paper reduces rumination and worry while increasing focus throughout the day. You're essentially giving your brain permission to stop holding on to everything, knowing it's safely recorded. The Amish approach to journaling is refreshingly simple. No special techniques or elaborate prompts, just honest recording of thoughts, plans, or observations. This simplicity makes the practice accessible and sustainable, which explains why it has endured for generations in their communities. 2 minutes with 3 simple prompts, what you're grateful for, what you hope to accomplish, and what's on your mind, can provide the same mental clearing that the Amish achieve through their morning writing. The key isn't perfection or length, but consistency and honesty on the page. Modern adaptations of this practice might include keeping a simple notebook by your bed or at the breakfast table, ready for morning thoughts. Without the pressure to create something beautiful or profound, journaling becomes a tool rather than another task to perfect. The dawn porch sitting. Threshold time is what some Amish families call it, those precious minutes spent sitting on the porch as day breaks, watching the world shift from darkness to light. It's not laziness or procrastination, it's intentional observation that connects them to both nature and the coming day's work. Psychologists have a term for spaces like porches, liminal spaces, thresholds between one state and another. These in-between places have unique effects on our thinking, often sparking creativity and perspective. The porch exists between private and public, between home and world, creating perfect conditions for transition time. Studies on creativity show that 72% of people report having creative insights in the shower, another liminal space. The Amish porch-sitting tradition capitalizes on this same psychological phenomenon, creating a daily practice of threshold observation that enhances awareness and often leads to practical insights about weather, seasons, and work planning. This practice requires nothing more than a chair and a willingness to be present. No special equipment, no subscription fees, no complicated instructions, just the discipline to create space between sleeping and doing. In modern life, we often rush from bed straight into activity without this crucial buffer zone. Scientists studying attention restoration theory have found that even brief periods of watching natural environments, like those observed during dawn porch sitting, can replenish our capacity to focus and make decisions. The changing light, the subtle movements of plants and animals, and the gradual awakening of the world create perfect conditions for mental refreshment. The Amish have maintained this practice not out of tradition for tradition's sake, but because they've experienced its benefits across generations. Their mornings begin with observation rather than information consumption, creating space for natural transitions rather than jarring shifts from sleep to productivity. Even apartment dwellers can adapt this practice with a window, balcony, or nearby outdoor space. The key is creating your own version of threshold time, a moment to witness the day's beginning before becoming an active participant in it. This practice helps establish a boundary between rest and activity, allowing for a gentler transition that respects the body's natural awakening process. Herbal tea rituals. Steaming cups of fragrant herbs replace our modern coffee addiction in traditional Amish kitchens. While the rest of America collectively gulps down enough coffee each year to fill over 400 Olympic swimming pools, the Amish have maintained their connection to simpler morning beverages that energize without the crash. Herbal preparations in Amish communities aren't trendy or Instagram-worthy. They're practical health traditions passed down through generations. Mint, chamomile, dandelion root, and locally foraged herbs make appearances in morning cups, offering gentle stimulation without dependency. The ritual itself matters as much as the ingredients. Taking time to boil water, steep herbs, and savor the resulting brew creates a moment of pause before the day's activities begin in earnest. This intentional preparation contrasts sharply with our drive-through coffee culture, where beverages are consumed on the go. The scientific benefits of herbal morning beverages deserve attention. Research shows that herbs like peppermint can improve alertness and memory without the adrenal strain of caffeine. Lemon balm reduces morning stress hormones, while ginger improves circulation and digestion, all benefits the Amish have observed through practical experience. What makes the Amish approach different isn't just the choice of beverage, but the mindfulness surrounding it. Morning drinks aren't consumed while multitasking or rushing out the door. They enjoy sitting down, often in silence or gentle conversation, creating a transition moment rather than just a caffeine delivery system. Creating your own herbal morning ritual doesn't require moving to an Amish farm. Simple combinations like mint and lemon balm for energy, chamomile and lavender for calm focus, or dandelion and nettle for detoxification can be prepared in minutes. The key is bringing presence to the process, making the preparation itself part of your morning practice rather than just another task to complete. As you sip your morning herbs, you connect not just with Amish wisdom, but with a human tradition that extends back thousands of years before the invention of the coffee maker or energy drink. This ancient practice of beginning the day with plant medicine remains relevant precisely because it works, not because it's trending. Beyond the physical benefits, this ritual creates a moment of intentional care for oneself before turning attention outward to the demands of the day. Breakfast. The morning meal happens differently in Amish homes. No sugary cereal commercials have influenced their breakfast choices. No Pop-Tarts emerge from toasters, and no one grabs a breakfast bar while running out the door. Instead, breakfasts are simple, nourishing, and almost always shared. Oatmeal steams in wooden bowls. Fresh bread from yesterday's baking appears with homemade jam or apple butter. Seasonal fruits grace the table alongside eggs from the family's hens. Nothing requires a barcode scanner or nutrition label. Most ingredients come from within walking distance of the kitchen. Modern nutritionists might be surprised to discover that the simple Amish breakfast aligns perfectly with current research on optimal morning eating. Studies show that balanced meals containing complex carbohydrates, protein, and healthy fats provide sustained energy rather than the spike and crash pattern typical of modern breakfast foods. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that people who eat protein-rich breakfasts consume approximately 200 fewer calories throughout the day than those who start with mainly carbohydrates. The Amish naturally achieve this balance through eggs, milk, and heartier grains. What truly sets the Amish breakfast apart, though, isn't just the food itself, but how it's eaten. Meals are communal affairs with family members present and engaged. No phones, no television news, no rushing. Research shows that children who eat breakfast with family perform better academically and have fewer behavioral problems than those who eat alone or on the go. The Amish don't need scientific studies to know that how you begin nourishing your body affects everything that follows. Generations of observation have shown them that steady energy from simple foods serves their active lifestyle better than the alternatives. This approach to breakfast also naturally limits processed sugars and refined carbohydrates, which research has linked to mid-morning energy crashes and increased hunger throughout the day. By focusing on whole foods, the Amish maintain more stable blood sugar and sustained energy levels. Adapting this practice doesn't require rejecting modern conveniences. Steel-cut oats can cook overnight in a slow cooker. Bread can be made on weekends and enjoyed throughout the week. The key isn't reproducing an exact Amish menu, but embracing the principles of simplicity, wholeness, and presence that make their breakfast so effective at sustaining energy and health. Making bread. The gentle rhythm of hands kneading dough has greeted countless mornings in Amish homes. While most Americans grab factory-produced loaves from grocery shelves without a second thought, the Amish have preserved the art of morning bread making as an essential part of their daily rhythm. Starting the day with bread making isn't just about having fresh food. Research has revealed something the Amish discovered through experience. Kneading dough releases endorphins and reduces stress hormones. The rhythmic pushing and folding motion creates a meditative state similar to what athletes call the zone. It's practical mindfulness disguised as a chore. One fascinating fact, the scent of baking bread has been shown to trigger greater kindness in strangers. In a study published in the Journal of Social Psychology, researchers found that people were more likely to help a stranger if they encountered them near a bakery with the aroma of fresh bread in the air. The science behind bread-making psychological benefits is compelling. The tactile experience of working with dough activates sensory pathways that can reduce anxiety. Additionally, the predictable transformation of simple ingredients into something nourishing creates a sense of accomplishment that sets a positive tone for the day. Modern bread making need not consume your entire morning. The Amish themselves often use a method where dough is started one day and finished the next. Simple, no-need recipes require just minutes of active work with delicious results. The key is incorporating some element of this practice, whether it's setting up dough to rise while you sleep or simply taking time to appreciate the bread you do have. In our rush toward convenience, we've lost many of the sensory pleasures and psychological benefits of food preparation. The Amish preserve these connections not out of stubborn resistance to progress, but because they recognize the hidden value in seemingly simple tasks. Their morning bread making nourishes both body and mind in ways pre-sliced loaves simply cannot. Whether you're baking from scratch or simply taking a moment to appreciate your toast, the Amish reminder to connect with our food offers a powerful way to ground your morning in something real and tangible before the abstraction of the workday begins. Morning memory training. While most of us reach for our phones to remember everything from shopping lists to appointments, the Amish develop their memory muscles each morning through intentional practice. Without digital crutches, they've preserved cognitive skills that modern neuroscience is now desperately trying to help us reclaim. The typical Amish day begins with a mental review rather than digital reminders. Work plans, community needs, and family responsibilities are remembered rather than recorded. This isn't because they lack paper, it's because they understand that memory, like any muscle, strengthens with use and atrophies with neglect. Neuroscientists have discovered that the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory formation, actually grows larger in people who regularly exercise their memory. London taxi drivers who memorize thousands of streets develop physically larger hippocampal regions than bus drivers who follow the same routes daily. Just 15 minutes of morning memory practice can improve cognitive function by up to 30% throughout the day, according to research from Stanford University. The Amish get this benefit naturally through their lifestyle, while many of us experience declining memory function from over-reliance on devices. Despite occasional memory lapses that everyone experiences, the benefits of morning memory training extend far beyond remembering errands. Regular memory exercise creates cognitive reserve, extra neural pathways that provide protection against age-related decline and dementia. It's mental insurance that pays dividends decades later. Incorporating Amish-inspired memory training into modern mornings is surprisingly simple. Begin by memorizing a short poem or quote each week, reviewing it each morning. Progress to remembering your day's schedule without checking your calendar. Eventually, try remembering shopping lists or important points for meetings without writing them down. The Amish tradition reminds us that convenience often comes with hidden costs. While our devices remember everything for us, we lose the mental exercise that keeps our brain sharp and flexible. Their morning memory practices preserve cognitive function that many of us must work to rebuild later in life. This practice doesn't require rejecting technology entirely, but rather creating intentional spaces in our day where we rely on our natural cognitive abilities rather than digital assistance. The no electricity hour. Living without electricity isn't just an Amish religious requirement, it's a practice that creates surprising benefits for the brain and body, especially in the morning hours. The limitation that many view as a hardship may actually be a hidden advantage in our overstimulated world. What happens when you spend the first hour of your day completely free from electrical devices? According to neuroscience research, your brainwave patterns change significantly. Without the electromagnetic fields from phones, computers, and other gadgets, your brain naturally shifts into more relaxed and focused states. A fascinating study from the University of California found that people who begin their day without electronic exposure show a 37% increase in creative problem-solving abilities compared to those who immediately check their devices. The researchers believe this difference comes from allowing the brain to wake up naturally without processing demands. The average American checks their phone within 10 minutes of waking, and many do so before their feet even touch the floor. This immediate exposure to information, notifications, and blue light triggers stress hormones before we've even started our day. The Amish, by contrast, begin with natural rhythms and face-to-face interactions. You don't need to install an Amish-style gas lamp to benefit from this practice. Simply creating a device-free period after waking can transform your morning experience. Try keeping phones and computers out of reach for the first hour, using a traditional alarm clock instead of your phone, and saving news consumption for later in the day. The physical effects of this practice are measurable too. Researchers have recorded lower blood pressure and heart rate in people who begin their day without electromagnetic exposure. Morning cortisol levels, a key stress hormone, drop by nearly 30% when people delay digital engagement for even 30 minutes after waking. The Amish have preserved this experience not from technological ignorance, but from witnessing its effects. Their communities observe clearer thinking, more meaningful conversations, and greater manual dexterity in their technology-limited mornings. These benefits translate directly into their craft work, farming success, and community bonds. This practice also helps maintain healthy circadian rhythms. Without artificial light and screen blue light interfering with melatonin production, the body can better maintain its natural sleep-wake cycle, leading to improved sleep quality and morning alertness. Chores before pleasure. First things first might be the unofficial morning motto in Amish communities across America. While many of us reach for our phones to check social media before handling essential tasks, the Amish follow a different sequence, completing responsibilities before engaging in any form of recreation or leisure. This principle isn't about denying pleasure. Instead, it creates a psychological foundation that many productivity experts now recommend. By tackling necessary tasks first thing in the morning, the Amish naturally implement what psychologists call task initiation momentum, the tendency for completing one task to make starting the next one easier. Research from Harvard Business School found that people who complete a meaningful task within the first hour of waking report 38% higher satisfaction with their entire day compared to those who delay responsibilities. The initial sense of accomplishment creates a positive feedback loop that enhances motivation for hours afterward. Examining the typical Amish morning reveals this principle in action. Barn chores, animal feeding, and essential household tasks happen before breakfast conversation or reading. This order isn't arbitrary. It's a time-tested approach that creates both practical and psychological benefits. What makes this approach effective isn't just willpower or discipline. Neuroscience shows that the brain's executive function, our ability to make decisions and control impulses, is strongest in the morning. By matching important tasks to our peak cognitive period, the Amish naturally optimize their productivity without complicated systems or apps. Integrating this practice doesn't require adopting an Amish lifestyle. Simply identifying one or two essential tasks to complete before any leisure activities can transform your morning effectiveness. Whether it's preparing lunches, reviewing important documents, or handling email, completing these responsibilities first creates momentum that carries throughout the day. The Amish understanding of human nature shines through this practice. They recognize that when pleasure comes before responsibility, tasks often get delayed or avoided entirely. Their morning sequence isn't about self-denial, it's about creating conditions where work feels satisfying rather than burdensome. This approach also reduces what psychologists call task-switching costs. By grouping responsibilities before leisure, the mind can fully engage with each activity rather than constantly shifting between work and pleasure. Repairing something small. While most modern households maintain a growing collection of broken items waiting for someday repairs, Amish communities follow a different rhythm. Small repairs become part of the morning routine, preventing minor issues from becoming major problems and cultivating a healthy relationship with material possessions. The typical Amish morning might include fixing a loose chair leg, reattaching a button, or mending a torn piece of clothing, tasks that take just minutes but would otherwise pile up into overwhelming projects. This approach isn't about being handy. It's about developing a maintenance mindset that extends the life of everything they own. Environmental scientists have calculated that if Americans repair just 10% of the items they currently discard, landfill waste would decrease by approximately 132 million tons annually. The Amish achieve much higher repair rates naturally, without environmental activism driving their choices. Studies on psychological well-being show remarkable benefits from this repair-oriented approach. People who regularly fix things experience up to 40% higher satisfaction with their possessions compared to those who replace items when they break. The investment of effort creates emotional connection and perceived value that new purchases can't match. Incorporating small repairs into your morning creates remarkable benefits. The sense of agency and competence that comes from solving problems, even tiny ones, sets a tone of capability that influences how you approach larger challenges throughout the day. The Amish preference for morning repairs stems from practical wisdom. Manual dexterity is typically at its highest within a few hours of waking, making detailed work easier. Additionally, completing a repair creates a concrete sense of accomplishment that purely digital work often lacks. For those without Amish-level skills, starting small is key. Sewing on a button, tightening loose screws, or gluing broken items takes minimal expertise, but builds confidence for larger projects. The goal isn't becoming a master craftsperson overnight, but developing the habit of maintenance rather than disposal. What truly distinguishes the Amish approach isn't the repairs themselves, but the mentality behind them. They view objects as worthy of care rather than temporary conveniences, creating relationships with their possessions that stand in stark contrast to our throwaway culture. Walking instead of driving. Each step carries meaning in Amish communities where walking remains the primary form of short-distance transportation. This isn't just about tradition or religious restrictions. It's about connecting with the landscape, maintaining physical health, and creating natural transitions between activities. Did you know that Amish people typically walk between 14,000 and 18,000 steps daily? That's nearly triple the average American's 5,000 steps. This isn't because they're fitness enthusiasts following step-counting apps. It's simply the natural outcome of a lifestyle where walking serves practical purposes rather than being relegated to dedicated exercise time. The health benefits of this approach are striking. Research published in the Journal of American Medical Association found that Amish communities have obesity rates 80% lower than the general American population. Despite diets that include plenty of hearty, home-cooked meals, their morning walking habits play a crucial role in this difference. Walking to start your day triggers a cascade of physiological benefits that coffee can't match. Morning light exposure while walking regulates circadian rhythms, improving sleep quality the following night. The gentle movement activates the lymphatic system, which helps remove waste products from cells and tissues, essentially taking out the trash in your body. The cognitive benefits may be even more impressive than the physical ones. Studies show that walking before mental work increases creative output by an average of 60% compared to sitting. The Amish naturally harness this creative boost through their morning walking patterns. This practice also creates natural transition periods between home and work, allowing the mind to shift contexts gradually rather than abruptly. In modern terms, we might call this a commute without the traffic stress, time to process thoughts, prepare mentally for upcoming activities, or simply enjoy the sensory experience of moving through the world. You don't need to sell your car and buy a buggy to incorporate this Amish wisdom. Small substitutions make a significant difference. Walking to a neighbor's house instead of driving, parking at the far end of parking lots, or simply taking a 10-minute morning walk before starting your day. For those unable to walk outdoors due to location or physical limitations, even walking inside your home or building can provide many of the same benefits. The key is movement that becomes integrated into your daily pattern rather than isolated as exercise time. The Amish Rumspringa morning. Freedom within boundaries creates the foundation for the most famous Amish tradition, Rumspringa, a period when young adults explore the world beyond their communities before deciding whether to commit to the Amish way of life. This principle of controlled exploration offers powerful morning wisdom even for those who will never drive a buggy. Adapting the Rumspringa concept to your morning routine means occasionally breaking from established patterns, not recklessly, but intentionally. Research in neuroscience shows that periodic routine disruption increases cognitive flexibility and prevents the brain from becoming rigidly attached to specific patterns. Scientists at University College London found that people who occasionally vary their morning routines show 23% higher problem-solving abilities than those who never deviate. The brain, it seems, benefits from occasional surprise almost as much as it benefits from consistency. The Amish application of this principle is subtle but important. While they maintain consistent practices most days, many Amish families allow for occasional morning variations, perhaps breakfast outdoors on a beautiful day or starting with a different chore than usual. These small changes prevent rigidity while maintaining the overall structure that serves them well. Creating your version of a rumspringa morning doesn't mean abandoning all structure or responsibilities. Instead, it means finding safe boundaries within which to explore alternatives to your usual patterns. Perhaps it's taking a different route to work, trying a new breakfast food, or starting the day with an activity usually saved for evenings. The psychological benefit comes from exercising your adaptability muscles in small, controlled ways. This creates resilience that serves you when life inevitably throws unexpected changes your way. The Amish develop this flexibility naturally through their community practices, while many modern people become increasingly rigid in their routines. This practice aligns with what psychologists call psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt to fluctuating situations and shift perspective when appropriate. Research shows that people with greater psychological flexibility report higher life satisfaction and lower rates of anxiety and depression. Implementing this concept might mean designating one morning per week or month as your rumspringa morning, a time to intentionally vary your routine while maintaining your overall commitments and responsibilities. The Amish have preserved morning wisdom that modern science now confirms. By embracing simplicity, intentional transitions, and mindful habits, they show us how to reclaim our mornings. These timeless practices don't require rejecting technology, just remembering what truly matters as we begin each day.